This person we did not even know existed has been stalking our child online, insisting she's the stepmother. You won't believe this story. Backstory. I met my wife in high school, and she was 6 months pregnant at the time. The bio father was a complete deadbeat, and the only reason I even met the two of them is because my friend was sleeping with the deadbeat behind wifey's back and wanted to introduce me to him. When the baby was born, deadbeat dropped out of school and changed his number to avoid wifey and the new baby. By the time the baby was 8 months old, wifey and I started dating. We graduated together, moved across the state to college, and went on our own lives as a happy little family. Fast forward 5 years. We've never even heard from deadbeat, and until the kid was 3.5 years old. She and wifey still technically lived with wifey's mom on breaks, and such in the same house they've always been. Just a few blocks from deadbeat. Out of the blue, he sends us a message on Facebook, asking to have the baby over for the weekend. Apparently, he's gotten his new girlfriend pregnant, and they had to rush to get married. Now, the new wife, we'll call her Psycho, wanted deadbeat to have his daughter back. It's been 5 years and she did not know him, and we did not know what to say at first. Out of curiosity, we checked out both deadbeat's and Psycho's profile, and I nearly fainted. For nearly a year, Psycho had been collecting photos of the baby from anyone's profile that would share a picture of her. Not only that, she was posting them on her profile as if she's been the one taking care of them. This includes shots from a Mother's Day photo shoot that we paid for. The photographer posted some of the shots with her watermark on her page before we even got the shots back. And Psycho copied them all to post on her profile, saying it was the best Mother's Day gift ever. Yeah, her baby wasn't even born yet. Scared and angry, we found it best to ignore the request. There was no way we could get the baby to go along with spending the weekend at a stranger's house. So they sued us for full custody and child support. Yeah, WTF. All hell broke loose when wifey was served papers at work. Immediately, we shut down our Facebook profiles because that's how Psycho knew where to send the papers, and told all our friends and family to take down any pictures of the baby. But this wasn't enough to stop her. Turns out, in addition to stealing photos, Psycho also made several fake profiles to add friends and family and get information about us. We never added anyone we didn't know, but other family members did. There were 7 fake profiles altogether when we had them all removed and reported. Psycho started sending her friends and family to attempt to add us and gather more information. She showed up at the daughter's Christmas show at school, when we did not even tell them where she went to school. She repeatedly showed up at wifey's work to try to get her in trouble, and called the cops on us for several false incidents. The reasons listed by their lawyers for seeking full custody were, yep, because we're lesbians, and that's bad for kids and we abused a little girl. Never once in her life. And they said we do drugs. Even offered to do a pee test, but she would not spring for it since we would have all had to foot the bill. Well, based solely on the fact that over 5 years prior, he had signed the VAP and deadbeat dad got visitation rights. Wifey retained primary custody, because, duh. And visits were begun slowly so the baby could get to know deadbeat. Eventually, it moved to every other weekend for the whole weekend. But the baby never made it the whole weekend. They made her sleep on the floor in their basement, so she never liked staying there for more than a night. The custody settled. We opened a case for support, and of course, deadbeat tried everything he could not to be responsible for support. When he ducked out over 5 years ago, we never asked him for a dime. But they wanted all this? So do we. You wouldn't believe the excuses he tried. Even though they won, Psycho did not stop trying to destroy our names online, and attempting to turn everyone from high school still in our hometown against us. She wanted the happy little family, and the baby was throwing a wrench in her plans by not calling her mommy right from the get-go. When they showed up at her spring concert uninvited, Psycho demanded she takes her and introduce her. So Baby introduced them as her step-parents. Both of them. She had just turned 6 and still a little confused by the whole thing. Oh, that was another thing, because she and the baby had the same birthday. Psycho insisted, quote, "She's supposed to be mine. That's why she came early." One night, when Baby was at their house, we got the usual call to come and get her. Only it was Psycho's mom on the phone and not Deadbeat. They lived with Psycho's parents in Nether Drove, so her parents had to take them everywhere. When they went to get to the pickup point, Baby was in tears, and Deadbeat hops into his in-laws' trucks without explanation. Turns out, Psycho lost her cool when Baby did not want to stay the night again. So she sat Baby down and read her the custody agreement line for line. Then she looked at this 6-year-old Angel's in the eyes and told her she could have her mama arrested anytime she wanted to for not complying with custody agreement. Psycho was convinced the only reason Baby would not like her is because we told her not to. Dude, I don't want her to like wifey's mom either, but I have no say in who my daughter cares for. Well, for the next week, I got to force Baby onto the school bus in tears because she's convinced I will get arrested while she's at school. And I won't be there waiting for her in the afternoon. Gosh, just typing this out breaks my heart all over again. Thanks for that, Psycho. But this story does end with some poetic justice. Maybe they were tired for fighting with this little girl. Maybe she realized just how badly she messed up. Who knows? But before the next visitation, we got an email from our lawyer explaining Deadbeat wanted to sign over his rights. It's only been 3 months since he enacted them. And allow me to formally adopt the baby. We were ecstatic. Obviously. We agreed and everything fell into place. She never had to see them again, and Wifey and I could shoulder the online attacks and occasional face-to-face confrontation from everyone in their family, seeing them as the victims. Life goes back to normal and we begin to heal. But this story wasn't finished. 2 weeks ago, I got a message from Deadbeat's sister-in-law who never really took part in the harassment. She's married to his younger brother and just had their first baby. She was hoping we would consider letting our baby get to know her baby, since they are biologically cousins. That isn't the way we see family in this house, but I understand other people put an emphasis on DNA. It turns out the 3 kids Psycho ended up having with Deadbeat are no longer allowed to visit his side of the family, and our baby is the only biological cousin left. Why? Because Deadbeat sexually assaulted an 11-year-old girl. He and Psycho were supposed to be babysitting. He went to prison and Psycho divorced him, banning his entire family from seeing any of the kids. My heart bleeds for the little girl who had her life ruined. But I am human, so forgive me when I say, after watching that Psycho twist my little girl up inside, I feel satisfied with this scoop of karma. Talk about 2 very vile human beings. I can see why they were nicknamed Deadbeat and Psycho. The bottom of the story, the update that said he's now in prison, is exactly how I wanted the story to end because I truly believe in karma. Let me know in the comment section down below what you guys thought of that story. I love your opinions. Here comes today's story number 2. Grandma told me I was going to hell at a birthday dinner. Remember, if you're not subscribed to the channel, it's hands down the best way to support me, and it really means a lot. Here comes story number 2. For some context, my father died when I was very young, and he was gay. So my grandmother did not think he was a good influence or parent. Divorce left my mom a single parent, more or less, because my dad really did have a lot going on at the time and wasn't fit to be the sole provider for me. So she relied on my grandparents on my father's side for a lot. Because of this, my mom was very reliant on them for money, and usually just let my grandmother have her way about things. Some things she got her way about until I turned 18 was that I went to Catholic school. I was an altar girl at church and was ordained to give out the Eucharist during Mass. The whole shebang. On to the story. I was turning 19 and had just moved home that summer for my first year of college. I could not afford a second year there, so I moved home and was enrolling in community college. Since I was home for my birthday, my grandparents offered to take me out for dinner. Dinners were always their jam, so I picked one I liked and we go to dinner. We're having a nice time. Then they bring the bill. Grandpa gets up and pays the counter as typical with American diners. And that's when she strikes. Alone at the table with my grandmother for the occasion of my birthday, she proceeds to tell me how disappointed she is that I've stopped going to church now. How she feels like I'm wasting the Catholic education she convinced my mother I needed. Presumably so I wouldn't turn out gay like my father. And that this deeply saddens her, as I'm surely going to hell for this. I was stunned. She's never spoken to me like this before, and I don't even know how I should respond. I genuinely don't remember. What I do remember is realizing in that moment that nothing I ever accomplished would ever be good enough for her if it did not include her faith as well. Grandpa came back to the table and she immediately shut up. Grandpa would have never let her say anything like that to me, and certainly not at a celebration for my birthday. It was like once I turned 18 and was really finally able to start making decisions for myself, she realized she was losing control of me. I have more stories of her, and she's been a constant presence in my life for years. Like the time she tricked me into visiting my father's grave. Just not sure how well received, quote, grandparent stories are here. Edit. A few people have asked about the grave story, and while I did reply to the story in a comment to someone, I feel like a jerk just telling you to go to the comments. So, for your reading pleasure, copied verbatim, to give you the short, sweet version. He died when I was 12. When his headstone was ready, Grandma wanted everyone to go to his grave so a priest could bless the stone or something. I didn't want to go. The funeral was traumatic, to say the least. The worst way as a kid to be the center of attention is because one of your parents just died. Anyways, I refused to go. A few weeks later, I'm on summer break and went to my grandparents' house every day while my mom worked. Basically, Grandma went and picked up my favorite cousin, took us to get lunch, and instead of going home after lunch, we ended up at the cemetery. I've never felt so betrayed in my entire life. I wish Grandpa of this story would have known what Grandma was saying. If she felt so confident, why did she hush when he came back to the table? That's what I'm wondering. I actually saw a comment from the original thread, and it was a similar situation, so let's read that. I've had one strange old lady yell at me, "You're going to hell," to just about everyone who walked around the road, and I didn't know what she said. I accidentally replied, "See you there." It was only later I found out what she said, and my slow snail brain registered what I yelled back and replied. Guys, we have one more story today. It's about an entitled Bible-thumping aunt who steals an anime box set, and I told her son he couldn't borrow it. She took it anyways, so I did this. No real damage done, but it was still annoying. A cousin of mine recently got into Studio Ghibli films. He wanted to borrow Spirited Away, and I was okay with that. His folks go to church in my area, so they agreed to swing by and grab the disc after service. They came in, I got the disc, and my cousin starts asking about some of the other Ghibli films, and anime mixed into my collection. Then he points to Soul Eater. It's a great show, but he just turned 13 and it wasn't exactly age appropriate. Plus, I did not think his parents, mainly his mother, would approve. They're very religious and the show revolves around soul harvesting, the Grim Reaper, witches, and some fan service. I'm still not sure Ghibli was okay with them because of the spirits, witches, and demons, but I was pretty sure how a show called Soul Eater would tip the Jenga tower. So, when he asked me if I can borrow it, I said no. That no seemed to catch my aunt's attention, and she was by my cousin's side in a flash. She asked why he can't borrow it, and I told her it may not be age appropriate. Then she says something along the lines of, "It's a cartoon, it's meant for children. You're a grown woman, you shouldn't have this anyways." I was a little irritated but stood firm. Instead, I let the kid borrow my neighbor Totoro, as well as spirited away and they went home. I thought everything was good until an hour ago. I received a call from my screaming aunt. She accused me of trying to corrupt their son with vulgarity and Satanism. I was lost at first, and then she mentioned a demon and a naked cat woman being in the first episode. I checked my shelf and Soul Eater was missing. I'm not sure when she did it, but she's stolen the box set. They're returning the movies next Sunday, and Soul Eater had be better with them. I'm hoping she doesn't, quote, confiscate it like she does with other ungodly stuff. That set was around $50 after shipping and handling. It was like the first anime box set I ever bought, and I will go to war for it. Okay guys, here's an update. It's been an interesting week. My aunt stole my Soul Eater box set after I told her son he could not borrow it. She then called me a few hours later claiming that I was trying to corrupt her baby boy. From what my uncle told me, she had intended on returning it with the other DVDs my cousin borrowed. But after watching the first episode of Soul Eater, she planned on throwing it out. Thankfully, this is where my uncle stepped in. For years, the man's been rescuing wicked items from his wife and returning them to his nieces and nephews. Earlier tonight, he stopped by and returned my pilfered box set, along with other DVDs. He apologized for my aunt and promised it would never happen again. Even so, I still don't want her in my apartment. I told him I don't feel comfortable lending them movies, but I also told him about Crunchyroll accounts and said he'd tell my cousin. So now the kid can enjoy anime and his mother won't step foot into my apartment. I know the conclusion wasn't very exciting, but I got my disc back and that's all I wanted. I'm currently binging episodes of Soul Eater and I don't plan on stopping anytime soon. When I originally typed it out, I was angry and just trying to vent. I have no idea this was going to blow up. Thank you for taking your time to read the post and this update. The entitled aunt of the story just did not seem to realize that OP is saying, hey, this cartoon or anime is not made for little kids. Well, I guess she learned the hard lesson when they popped it in the DVD player. Let's drop a comment down below for the uncle of the story who saved Soul Eater from being thrown into the garbage. Guys, I hope each and every one of you enjoyed today's stories. If you did, show a little love and support by doing two things: pressing the like button and subscribing to the channel. I hope you all have a wonderful day. I'll see you tomorrow.